thank you for being here today. I am grateful for the opportunity to speak to you, and I'm incredibly inspired by the others who have talked with you today. Now, I want you to think about why you're here with us today. Who invited you here, or who recommended that this would be a beneficial experience for you? Chances are that person is someone you consider a friend, maybe a family member, maybe a close colleague. But regardless of who it is, you're connected with that person. You trust them, and you know that they have your best interests in mind. Now, I want to talk about an idea that I think you already know is valid. You probably just don't know the power that it gives you, and how this idea has a potential to impact where you live, and how the potential impact for that idea being put to use is greater now than it's ever been before. I believe that people make decisions in their lives, maybe even big decisions, or small decisions, like giving 2 hours of your day to this, or big decisions like where they live. They make those decisions based more on the who that influences that decision rather than the what. And this idea came to me over the last several years working in economic development. And my role in economic development has primarily been in the attraction and retention of specific types of individuals. And I've used community building as a tactic to attract and retain individuals to cities and regions. I've worked with chambers of commerces to build communities of young professionals. I've worked with cities to build communities of artists and musicians. And I've worked with economic development corporations to build communities of entrepreneurs. Now, community building, I can assure you, is a lot of work, and a lot of time goes into it. But the foundational principle of community building is rather simple. See, a community of any type, whether it be geographically based, place-based, or purpose-based, is really just a collection of individuals who feel connected to each other. And if done intentionally, with economic impact in mind, those connections between individuals can produce amazing results. And I want to share with you a few stories that exemplify this. When I first got into this work, I was building a community of young professionals in a small Wisconsin city, and through this work, I crossed paths with a young journalist from Indiana who was fresh out of college. And she moved to this city for her first job. We met about 90 days into her residency in this city, and that conversation went something like this. I'm not happy. I feel lonely. I feel disconnected. I spend more time at my apartment than I do anywhere else. I'm already considering finding a new job in Indiana so I can go back to my people. I saw that as an opportunity to put this idea to the test. So over the next few months, I was intentional about connecting this individual to others in the community that I thought she shared similar interests with and could eventually become friends. I introduced her to locations in the community that she could go to with these individuals and have a good time. And additionally, I showed her community-enhancing projects that I thought she could be a part of based on the alignment of her interests and her skills. A few months go by, and her perception on living in this city changed dramatically. Within just a few weeks, she was leading a community project that was designed to showcase and celebrate that city and why it was so appealing for young professionals to live in. A couple of months go by, and she wrote an article in a statewide publication celebrating being in Wisconsin and why she loved it so much and why others like her should come and live in Wisconsin too. Throughout this process, this individual was actually offered a job back in her home state, a better one than she had. She turned it down. This individual is still in the state of Wisconsin. She's still continuing to write impactful stories about the state of Wisconsin. And To prove this point even more, this individual has a tattoo of the state of Wisconsin on her body. So that's a story of retention, how to retain somebody that came to a community. How about attraction? Well, I'm going to take you to a time about a year and a half ago. It's the middle of the pandemic. I'm working for an economic development corporation. I'm tasked with building an entrepreneurial community. About 2-3 months into this pandemic, I crossed paths with a husband-wife entrepreneurial duo. They had just started a financial technology company, and they were from across the country, different state. They were temporarily quarantined in this Wisconsin city. They had a couple babies actually, and they thought, well, we have family here, and the healthcare system in Wisconsin is better than where it is in our home state, so we're just going to spend the pandemic here. A couple of weeks go by. They had told me, we're actually considering moving here long term. We're a little scared of the winters, but we're considering moving here. It's beautiful. So I saw that as an opportunity. I intentionally connected them to other individuals in the community, namely entrepreneurs, who were walking the same path that they were walking, the trials, the tribulations of entrepreneurship. I showed them individuals who had resources to help entrepreneurs along their journey. Couple more weeks go by, and I get a call from them, and they say, hey, Nick, can you help us find a realtor? Because we're considering buying a house and moving our family and our business here. In the middle of the pandemic, this husband-wife duo, who has a company and 2 young children, moved their business and their family across the country to this Wisconsin city. Since then, this business has been identified as one of the top startup businesses in the state to watch. They've won pitch competitions and funding. They've hired their first employees here. This business will be economically impactful for this state for many years to come. And it's all because of people. Both of these stories exemplify how connecting people to each other and helping them form relationships with each other actually leads to people forming relationships with a place. Now, I think we can agree that there's some validity to this idea. But why is it so important right now? And why is it going to continue to be so important as our cities and our regions grow with people in the future? Well, I want to ask you, think about this. Why do you live where you live? Chances are it's probably one or more of these primary reasons. One, you grew up there, or you grew up close to where you currently live. And so it made sense for you to stay there because it's close to your family and your friends, the people that mean the most to you. Maybe you went to college there, and you got a job out of college, and so it was the easiest for you to stay there because you kept building your professional career in the city in which you went to college. Or maybe you don't live anywhere close to where you grew up or where you went to college, but you ended up there because you took a job or someone close to you, such as a significant other or a family member, took a job there. Point being here is the chances are pretty high that you live where you live because you need to make a living, and that job is how you decided to be there. So why is this so important now? Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but the COVID-19 pandemic has had some changes in society. And one area in particular that is seeing a large amount of change is work. Office workers all across the world got really good at working remotely. And companies have seen the benefits of not having to have an office space for their employees. And there's a level of trust in their employees to do their job in a remote setting, which means employees can live anywhere they want to live, and they can continue to do their jobs as long as there's an internet connection. And that's going to continue to increase, especially as technological advances in the workplace continue to come. Remote work is here to stay. But I think about this. If people mostly live where they live right now because of a job, but there's this increasing population of people who can live in somewhere different than where their job is, the job isn't going to get them to that city. And if it's not the job, what is it? I reintroduce this idea of connection to people and the power that it gives you. I would venture to guess that everybody in this room knows somebody who doesn't live in their community, maybe doesn't even live in their state. To this point in society, we've relied on government, chambers of commerces, corporations to market our communities based on the amenities, the restaurants, the waterfront developments, those types of things that we really believe are the reasons that people decide to live in a particular city. But what about us? What if we accepted the role of recruiter for our city? What if we sat in this power of being able to influence who we know to impact where they go? So, I invite you from now on, be proud of your city. Invite people who you know who don't know anything about your city to your city. And while they're there, introduce them to other people there. Help them form a relationship with people in your community, and the chances are they're going to form a relationship with the place. And there's much to be said about the economic benefits of this. If they don't have a job there, they're not paying an employment tax. If they're not living there, they're not paying a property tax. If they're not visiting there, they're not buying, drinks and going to movies and going to concerts, and so there's not a sales tax. But if we as people accept the role of recruiters for our city and connectors to the people in our city, we might entice the people that we know to come and visit our city a little bit more often. And who knows, we might be able to create a ripple effect of getting people to move there. Thank you.